we actually see that all property types in the number of transactions are down as well year over year, with the exception of one property type. In today's video, yet another TREB Resale Market Report. This time for the month of August, we're gonna go through all the major numbers and some more specific numbers, all the trends and themes you should know about the GTA/Toronto real estate market as of August 2021. Let's get to it. Hello everyone, this is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. As always, back with another video for you guys here today. You can find my contact information in the description box with regards to my Gmail, my Instagram, and my office. Feel free to get in touch with me with any questions you may have with regards to any topics covered in this video or any other video. Once again, you can find that contact info in the description box with regards to my Gmail and my Instagram. Lastly, before we get into the topic of today's video, which is yet another TREB Resale Market Report for the month of August 2021. If you happen to enjoy my videos and find them informative, feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Your support in that regard is greatly appreciated as always, but you're not obliged to do so whatsoever. So enough of that, let's get to the topics of today's video. And as always, these TREB Resale Market Reports, I go through some major numbers and trends in the beginning of the video, and towards the middle of the video and latter portions of the video, we take a look at more specific facts, trends, and numbers with regards to the GTA/Toronto real estate market. And you can find the timestamps in the comments, the video chapters on the player bar below. Feel free to move around the video as you please. So let's start with the major trends and numbers. Starting out with the total number of residential transactions for the month of August with regards to the GTA/Toronto real estate market. As we see a month over month dip of 19.9% in terms of the number of transactions, going from 10,700 sales/transactions in August of 2020, now down to 8,500 of the month of August 2021. Now, obviously, this is a year-over-year measurement, right? Even if we look at the month-over-month measures, so comparing August of 2021 to July of 2021, we still see a dip as well, where in July of 2021, the preceding month, with regards to the Toronto/GTA real estate market in terms of number of transactions, there was 9,300 transactions, once again now down to 8,500. And July itself, and you can go back to watch the July market report, was down around 13%, I believe, as well. So this is all to say that transactions are down whichever way you look at it. There's various explanations for this, and all of them are, in terms of veracity, equal in my opinion. On one hand, you have the summer market. This is the lull between the summer market that is slow anyways, typically, not in terms of price, but in terms of activity, before the storm that usually comes about in the fall winter market. So that's typical. Most people who wanted to sell already sold, or wanted to sell didn't get the price, are not going to try to resell during the summer. Most people who wanted to make their purchases have made their purchases before the school year. And most people who wanted to make their purchases, this is specifically with regards to end users, have made their purchases, those with families, before the school year. They've gone situated already. And this trend of dip in transactions has been a steady theme all the way from the highs of March and April with regards to all property types. And once again, this figure of total residential transactions, if you are not familiar, I should probably mention, is with regards to all property types. And very interestingly, and I will cover this in more detail later in the video, when we break down the number of transactions per property type, so once again, going from the all property type figure we have here to number of transactions for detached, number of transactions for semi, townhome, condos, we actually see that all property types in the number of transactions are down as well year over year, with the exception of one property type, which is condominium apartments, and we will get to that in more specific detail later on in the video. Moving on to the average selling price. Now, average selling price is up 12.6%, coming in at $1,070,000 with regards to the average sold price across all property types in August of 2021 with regards to the GTA/real estate market. Once again, up from the $951,000 average sold price of last August. It is also up month over month. So once again, looking at August versus July of 2021, we see the average sold price of July of 2021 was $1,062,000. Now we're standing at $1,070,000. That's quite marginal when we're looking at such a large picture here. I mean, it's not completely inconsequential. It does show us that prices are trending higher, but a difference of about $8,000 to $10,000. Once again, it's not absolutely nothing, but it's not a substantial increase by any means. In contrast to the earlier portion, when we're talking about total transactions, to summarize again, was down. To refresh your memory, total transactions was down year over year and month over month. The exact opposite with average price. Average price is up year over year and month over month. So we have this inverse relationship where total transactions are going down, average prices are going up. This shows us that even though there is diminished demand at the end of the day, the diminished demand still outweighs the diminished supply. And the total transaction figure that is down has to do in part with a diminished amount of supply, not necessarily a diminished amount of demand. Although the demand is diminished, once more, it still outweighs the supply. Hence why, due to decreasing supply in the last couple of months, prices have either remained pretty steady or increased marginally so. And speaking of supply, let's go to the listing figures at a general level. Down 40 some odd percent, down from 18,000 year over year to 10,000 in terms of August 2021. Here it should be pretty clear to us that supply has greatly diminished in terms of the selling side of things. According to the law of supply, when the price of a good goes up, so does the amount supplies. Because the producers in the marketplace see that the price of their commodity is going up, they are more apt to provide that supply into the marketplace. That is the law of supply. It is the exact opposite of the law of demand. When P goes up, price goes up, quantity demanded diminishes. And this once again reinforces my earlier point that yes, both demand and supply have diminished, but that's not to say they're dead even. Demand still greatly outweighs supply, and especially considering this 43% drop in total number of listings year over year. Anyways, let's move on to more specific numbers and more detailed numbers by area, property type, and more details. Let's get to it. Let's take a look at prices and sales by property type. As I referenced earlier in the video, that transactions at large were down across all property types, yet even if we break it down by property type, they're down as well with the sole exclusion of one property type, which is condos. Let's take a look at those numbers. We see detached, semi-detached, and townhomes are down in the number of transactions. We see the number of sales of a detached property is down 31%. We see semi-detached is down 29%, and townhomes and the number of transactions once again are down 19%. Once again, this is year over year. Yet, as you can see, condos have a positive percentage where they are actually up 11%. This, in conjunction with the fact that across the market we see a downtrend in terms of transactions, really shows us that it's mostly freehold properties are being transacted less, and that's what's bringing down the number of transactions. And condominiums are staying steady and pretty strong and have shown an increase of 11%. And although condos remain strong in terms of the number of transactions, even condos, when we look at month over month, were down, because in the month of July of 2021, there was about 2,600 transactions for condominiums. Once again, here we are looking at 2,500, even though once again, condos are the only property type that are actually up and not in the negatives with regards to the number of sales. This fact, in conjunction with prices I will cover later on in this video in terms of downtown Toronto condo numbers, shows us that in terms of price activity and the number of sales, that a lot of buyers have made the shift towards condominiums. This can be due to various reasons. Investor demand is always strong within condominiums, especially now that the worldwide event is kind of nearing towards an end and things are going to open up again, and the Canadian government is looking to meet its migration targets and population growth. Investor demand is going to increase naturally with regards to that. A lot of people who are coming to the city of Toronto or anywhere in the GTA start out by renting, so this increases investor demand. Another factor of increasing demand for both investors and end users is also, when things are opening up again, a lot of people who decide to once forego condominiums for cheaper rent options north in anywhere in York region or maybe in Durham or the west side of the GTA now need to be closer to work once more because people are returning back to the offices. And this also impacts the purchase and sale market as well, in terms of most specifically central Toronto, but this can also expand towards western Toronto and eastern Toronto as well. Now, shifting our focus back to the freehold side of things, right now it's a better time to be a freehold buyer in this current moment in time, because although demand still outweighs supply, which is a thing I've said a million times so far in this video, and I'll say a million times more, supply is low. That is true. You're limited in terms of the number of options available to you. However, what is also true is that you have less buyer competition involved in the market as you did in March, April, even earlier before that, and clearly in August of 2020. Competition on the buyer side of things is much lower. Not as if you have zero multiple offers and bidding situations. You actually still have a lot of those. A lot of times it's a mistake. You know, I don't think it's the best time to have a bidding situation for freehold properties, at least speaking at a grand level. Area to area it differs, but you do have less competition. So I think if you are deciding to buy, I think it's a better time to buy on the freehold side of things now, when the market is in a bit of a lull, than the ensuing fall and winter market, where I do see both buyer competition and supply increasing, which is the more of the two evils. As a buyer, if I'm going to deal with the lesser of two evils, I believe that would be this occasion right now, where supply is limited, your options are limited, but so is buyer competition you would be dealing with. But it's limited compared to buyer competition earlier in the year. I just want to clarify that. And once again, demand still outweighs supply. Another interesting fact that I also noticed in the July report, and I made note of it in the July report, is that in terms of rate of appreciation, not the exact price, because semis are still higher than townhomes, but in terms of rate of appreciation, we see townhomes to continue to outpace semis. Or in terms of rate of appreciation, townhomes are up 17% and semis are up 14%. Now, this is mainly due to the 416, because as you can see in the 416, townhomes are up 8% and semis are up 4%, whereas in the 905, where semis are up 21% and townhomes are up 20%. Nonetheless, at a ground level, when we look at the total areas, so 905 and 416 put together, townhomes are outpacing semis. And this is a fact that correlates with my everyday experience as a real estate agent working with buyers and sellers. And to me, a lot of times townhomes are actually better options than semis, because yes, at the end of the day, semis are more expensive. Everything else being equal, living in a townhome gives you the same end user experience at the end of the day as a semi does, and for a cheaper price. So it looks like when people are being priced out of detached properties, instead of shifting the demand towards semis, which is the next natural thing down the list and the lung of the ladder, they're skipping that lung of the ladder and they're going straight to townhomes and condos. Now let's move on to detached home prices by more specific areas, and I'll give you some numbers with regards to that. As you can see, detached home prices starting with the city of Toronto, Toronto-wide, Toronto at large. You see the average sold price of $1.674 million for the city of Toronto. When we break it down to Toronto Central, Toronto East, Toronto West, we see Toronto Central at $2.4 million, Toronto East at $1.278 million, and Toronto West at $1.457 million in terms of average sold price across the city of Toronto for detached specifically in the month of August 2021. Without a doubt, the cheapest detached home prices when we look at the city of Toronto is in the east side of the city. Now, before I elaborate on these numbers, let's take a look at York Region for comparison. When we look at York Region at large, we see an average near the city of Toronto at large of $1.68 million in terms of sold price for detached properties in the month of August. Now, when we break down York Region to the main areas, this is not obviously the entirety of the York Region, but these are the main areas, such as King, Richmond Hill, Vaughan, and Markham. We see Richmond Hill coming at $1.821 million in terms of average sold price. We see Vaughan come in at $1.813. King City coming at $2.2 million. Markham coming in at 1.7. So now that we have these two areas, City of Toronto and York Region, by far the cheapest area, and this might surprise some people because they would assume Toronto East, since it's in the City of Toronto, is still going to be more expensive in certain areas in York Region. No, that's not the case. The cheapest area, without a doubt, to buy detached properties of these available options here in front of us, not accounting for obviously Peel and Durham and other areas, is Toronto East. I've touched on this so far this year. I'm going to touch on it in future videos when I go to year-to-date numbers. So look forward to that video coming out. Without a shadow of a doubt, we have seen a strong shift of buyers going to York region. That's why when we break it down area by area of York region, all the areas are above 1.7. And at the end of the day, the average of all York region is close to the city of Toronto. Whereas the city of Toronto is really around 1.6 because the central parts of Toronto are doing the heavy lifting in terms of the average sold price. Where yes, in the central of Toronto, the average sold price of detached properties are still far higher than anywhere in York region, even King. And King number is kind of an outlier for the month of August. But still, Toronto West and Toronto East on average, once again, these are average prices, are still cheaper than anywhere in York region. Now, these are not the cheapest. Toronto West and Toronto East are not the cheapest areas in the GTA at large. Don't make that mistake. I went in an earlier video, I explained how certain areas in Durham and certain areas in Simcoe are the cheapest areas in the GTA or / TREB areas to buy a detached property. But if we're going to look centrally, and when we take into account for the GTA at large, these are the central areas. Toronto East and Toronto West are still the cheapest areas. Now, of the York region cities / areas, Markham is the cheapest at 1.7, and that's towards the eastern side of the GTA as well, right? Markham resides on the east. So Toronto East is the cheapest of the city of Toronto, and Markham, which is east, is the cheapest of York region. And this clearly indicates a pattern to us that the east side of the GTA, with regards to all property types, is cheaper, less developed, and less competition. And that's actually where a lot of builders are going towards now, because the west and central are so much so developed. And this extends as far as east as Durham, as I've made clear in previous videos. Now, finishing a video with Downtown Toronto condo prices, and for more detailed and specific condo prices, you would have to wait for this Friday's weekly condo market update and expect a long edition of that because we have a lot of condo numbers to go through. So I'm going to quickly touch on condo numbers here with regards to Downtown Toronto condos, but we're going to go through a large number of condo numbers later in the week. In terms of Downtown Toronto condo prices and trends, we see a huge jump month over month, year over year. Where in Toronto C1, August 2020, in terms of average sold price, we saw $826,000. And in terms of median, we saw $715,000. Now, year over year, comparing this to August of 2020, in terms of the same area, we saw an average sold price of $759,000 and a median sold price of $681,000. So in terms of average, almost up at a factor of $70,000. Even looking at it month over month, in terms of average, in the month of July, we had an average sold price of $760,000 and a median of $695,000. So as I touched on earlier in the video when I was going through condo figures with regards to the number of transactions and prices, I said condos are really staying strong right now and increasing quite a bit. Now, obviously, this is only with regards to downtown. As I said, we're going to go through more expansive and exhaustive condo numbers later in the week. But as you can see, demand for downtown Toronto condos are very, very strong. And this is only covering C1, but even if we were to take a look at C8 and C2 numbers, as I will do later, you see that the same theme continues. An upward trend and a strong demand and strong prices for downtown Toronto condos. And to reiterate some things I've said in the past, this has to do for, once again, the buyer demand shifting towards condos at large, but specifically with regards to downtown, because being priced out of detached and semis and townhomes because of, once again, proximity to work, especially with regards to downtown being another key motivating factor once more, where this wasn't the case August of 2020, where August of 2020 all the way to December of 2020, there was a downward trend for condominiums. Condominiums really saw the brunt of the struggle with the worldwide event, where houses clearly, in terms of number of transactions at least, freeholds didn't suffer all that much, where condos did. However, even month over month, they are up as well. Anyways, that's Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate, Remax Realtron Realty Inc. Stay tuned for more condo numbers later on in the week. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to ask any questions you may have in the comment section or get in touch with me with regards to my contact info in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned and stay safe.